we will take this idea wildcard over to some Plunket Shield cricket, because there are, like, if I'm applying this same discussion, which we don't need to do for the Plunket Shield, but we can just take it a bit further. Kyle Jameson is having a monstrous start to the Plunket Shield, 15 wickets, average of 8.8, 2 fifers, a hat-trick, on the back of his amazing work at all levels, last summer, or earlier this year to be more specific. As a prospect coming up, everyone would have seen Kyle Jameson immensely tall, super tall. But as I've said in this podcast and many different times, the first thing that was noticeable about Kyle Jameson was what he did with the ball. Like, yes, he's tall, and that's going to be attractive from a second coming of Neil Wagner type of vibe. That is extremely present throughout the Plunket Shield wildcard. I don't know if you've caught many of the various highlights, but it seems like these teams are falling back into the Neil Wagner plan rather eagerly, but they don't have bowlers who are Neil Wagner. So that's where I see a lot of sixes hit, is just like run-of-the-mill seam bowler going around the wicket with 3 men out on the leg side, but they have none of Neil Wagner's, not even skill set, because it's like more his stature as well. Like, he's a shorter bloke, skiddy and whatnot. But Kyle Jameson moves the ball, and I don't know what it is, wildcard, but there's some big swing happening, big movement, like in swing, out swing. For Kyle Jameson, it's in swing, out swing, and bounce. But that's from a cricket perspective, it's okay. You might be the fast bowler, you might be the tall bowler, but you're only going to progress to the higher levels if you do that while also moving the ball, swinging the ball, seaming the ball, and just having a greater skill set that is going to trouble batsmen at higher levels as well. So I head down that route just to set up our little Plunket Shield segment here, wildcard. Kyle Jameson is leading all wicket takers. Devon Conway, I mean, these are the two blokes of New Zealand cricket right now, wildcard. Kyle Jameson was the hottest thing last summer, based on what he did for the Black Caps. And then Devon Conway was the leading run scorer across all 3 formats last summer in domestic cricket. And here they are, both leading their respective rankings.
Which is, like, outstandingly incredible for Devon Conway, because Wellington have been shocking. Like, their batting lineup has been absolutely terrible so far. They haven't been getting runs from the openers coming in ahead of them. Like, they've had a couple nice little middle order scrapaways, but they've been pretty bad, and yet Devon Conway is leading the overall run charts. And it's like, I was shocked to see that at first. Considering, like, I mean, he hasn't scored 100, a few others, like, several others have, but at the same time, like, looking back at the Wellington scorecards, and even while their team was getting skittled in a couple of those games, he top scored in their first 3 innings and would have top scored in their 4th, if not for, it's Jamie Gibson, isn't it, scoring, batting away at the end there, and I can't remember if he got to 100 or not, I think he might have. So, like, Conway had actually been delivering for a team that's struggling, which means that those runs are even, like, tougher runs than they appear. Like, he's the top run scorer, having scored a lot of runs in, like, adverse conditions. So, yeah, mate, fair play to him. And Kyle Jameson, like, I mentioned last week how I had him as my player of the round for the first round. Then he goes and takes a hat-trick and plays even better the next time around. It's like, he 3 weeks ago before the season started, I would have said, and I think we did talk about this actually, like, he's sort of, what he did for the Black Caps late last year in a couple ODIs, a couple test matches, was probably enough to put him in, like, most of your, like, majority of your Black Cap squads, but maybe not necessarily first 11, but then with what he's done recently, and it's not just the numbers, it's the eye test as well. Like, just, but as you say, he gets bounced, obviously, but he swings the ball both ways. A lot of his wickets this season have come bowled as well, so he's bowling directly and still beating the beating the bat, beating the pad. Like, it's he's at a level where I haven't seen a bowler at domestic standard, like in Plunket Shield, bowling consistently like this well for at least a couple of years. And going back to like his last where are we? I whipped up his cricket info thing. His last 4 first class matches, so 2 tests against India and 2 Plunket Shield games. His first innings bowling stats are 4 for 39, 5 for 45, 5 for 39, and 5 for 41. Like, that's what he's done in the first bowling innings of his last 4 first class games. That includes 2 games where he's bowling to like Virat Kohli and stuff. That's incredible. Like, that goes far beyond anything else of like just the many things we're talking about and how you evaluate players. Like, there's a point at which you don't have to evaluate players because like it becomes just a fact. Like, it's not even a question now. It's like he would have to be in your Black Caps starting like first 11 if you I mean, it gets tricky if you want to work in how you're going to go with spinners and whatnot, but like, he's undeniably now in every Black Caps test squad on this kind of form, and like, you probably want him to be playing, which has got me wondering, like, what does that mean for someone like Tim Southey, for example, who's actually been very good in test matches in the last couple of years. Like, and I guess the guy who suffers the most is the fella who just broke his hand taking throwdowns from a fella named Peter Fulton, who was also about the same height as Kyle Jemison. Matt Henry, who's now out for about 6 weeks with that. He broke his thumb against Australia A, and now apparently he broke the other thumb getting throwdowns in the nets. And I don't know, but Peter Fulton maybe shouldn't, because he was the Black Caps batting coach for a while, and maybe there is an issue when you've got a 6'7" guy giving you throwdowns, and I don't know, but I guess that's just solidarity of the tall fellas, eh? Like, Peter Fulton giving Kyle Jamison's career one last little boost, and Kyle Jamison did sort of. This hasn't come out of the blue with him. Like, I've had to think about this a little bit more because it feels like it has. It feels like he's had just this roller coaster last 12 months or whatever. But there was a point, like, he took a 9 for Canterbury one time, didn't he? And the reason he didn't kick on there is because he got injured. Like, I think he missed quite a lot of time with, was it a back or a knee or, something like that. Like, he had a long injury layoff that sort of ended his time there with Canterbury before he moved back to Auckland. That's probably the only reason he didn't do this 12 months earlier as well.
We did our niche case versus Kyle Jameson back in maybe early 2017, if I can remember off the top. And that, yeah, definitely. And that's, like, I started seeing his movement with the ball as soon as he started playing, which was years ago, but it's been a massive ordeal. Like, when you're trying to bowl and you're that tall, you're going to have injuries throughout your career, and that's kind of what he had to go through. I just saw a wildcard, Colin de Grandhomme, no wickets in 28 overs of Plunket Shield cricket, which surprised me because, I mean, it's a seam bowling paradise around Aotearoa at the moment, and perhaps the dude who you'd think would benefit the most of juicy October, November wickets around Aotearoa, Colin de Grandhomme, but he hasn't taken a wicket. To further your point about building a Black Cap seam attack, which Colin de Grandhomme note, I won't put any weight to it just yet. It's just something that has happened in the first 2 games of Plunket Shield, and that might flow on. I don't know, but it is a note. The best spinner is Brad Schmullian, the underground king of Plunket Shield New Zealand cricket. He is 14th in wickets. 15th, sorry. So 14 seamers have taken at least 6 wickets in the first 2 games. There is no Ajaz Patel. He has not been cited in Plunket Shield cricket. He is battling an injury by all accounts. You mentioned Tim Southee. So are you thinking Tim Southee's in danger? Because the way I'm thinking, like, Matt Henry's, his one broken thumb earlier last summer opened the door for Kyle Jamieson, and his other broken thumb this summer is going to keep that door open for Kyle Jamieson. So are you thinking like I'm thinking like a Kyle Jamieson, Tim Southee, Trent Bolt, Colin de Grandhomme, Neil Wagner. And I think if Ajaz Patel isn't fit and healthy, based on what we've seen from the Black Caps previously, they seem rather unexcited to pick a spinner to play in the 11. And if they're not going to do that, you have to chuck Kyle Jamieson into the bowling attack with what he's doing at the moment. It just depends on that view around spin bowling in New Zealand. The weird note here, Wildcard, when we're talking about Kyle Jamieson, is that he's taken 15 wickets. Canterbury's Will Williams has taken 12 wickets. And I'll just compare their first-class records here, Wildcard. Will Williams is 28 years old. He has played 27 first-class games, and he has a bowling average of 23.68. Kyle Jamieson, 25 years old. 29 first-class games, and a bowling average of 23.85. So Jameson has played 2 more first-class games, and he's got a slightly worse average, 0.85 versus Williams's 0.68. So you've got one bowler in Kyle Jamieson, who is the hottest cricket thing in Aotearoa right now, but then you've got Will Williams, who has done exactly the same thing in first-class cricket, in Plunket Shield cricket, over a... Williams has been later on the scene because obviously Kyle Jamieson missed like large portions of multiple seasons due to injury. So that's why he has only played 29 games or whatever it was. Williams has played his games more concentrated more recently. But they have the exact same bowling record, and Williams is 3 wickets behind Jamieson in the Plunket Shield right now. He is extremely economical. But if we go back to like evaluating talent, Williams doesn't appear to bowl overly quick because Cameron Fletcher, the Canterbury wicketkeeper, is always standing. Not always, because Williams opens the bowling and Fletcher is back. But then at some point, Fletcher, like every game, comes up to the stumps at some point. I don't know exactly what point it is. So that tells me Williams isn't bowling overly fast. That's obvious. And Williams doesn't appear to be like... He's not moving the ball more than Jameson. I think I broke down a few little notes of his action in the on the blogs, so read that. Maybe Williams has like a front-on action that does allow for right arm in swing, pushing it across left-handers into right-handers. He has this weird style where his bowling arm goes like... So for yourself, Wildcard, and the listeners, imagine a right-arm seam bowler. They jump, they plant their right foot with their toes pointing down the pitch as opposed to their toes pointing towards the boundary or like at a right angle. So Williams comes in, toes pointing forward. He lands his front leg, his left leg, and his bowling arm is to the left of his front leg, if you know what I'm saying. Like it's over behind the front leg, and then it comes out. It looks really awkward, and if you're doing it at home, it would feel really awkward. There's some weird flexibility movement that happens in Williams's action, and that's the best I could find as like a X factor of what Williams does. Like there's no other notable signs that are like, holy shit, Will Williams, he's got exactly the same record as Kyle Jamison, but it's like Will Williams isn't as dominant as Jameson. It's very strange, but I'm trying to figure that out. That's my next little mission. I've done my little figure out what the All Blacks are doing, still on that journey. That thought experiment worked out in my favor. Now I'm just kind of figuring out, like, what's Will Williams doing? Because even to elaborate another step, Sean Solier is third in wickets. So you mentioned the Wellington batting lineup and Wellington just not being very good at the moment. Auckland have 2 seamers in the top 3 wicket takers. 3 bowlers have taken at least 10 wickets. Sean Solier, Will Williams, and Kyle Jemison. So Sean Solier is opening the batting for Auckland, and he's taking 11 wickets at an average of 8.27, which is better than Kyle Jamison. But with Sean Solier, well, I shouldn't say, but just with Sean Solier, I can see that he is, like, I can just watch him bowl and I can see what works well for him. I can see perhaps why he is having success. There's just like a look to his bowling. You can see that he's controlled, but he's got a very like powerful action, and he can move the ball. Williams I'm still struggling to see what Will Williams is doing that is really difficult for batsmen to handle, because once again, he's got the exact same record as Kyle Jamison. He has had a fantastic start to the season, but why? Why?
Yeah, also, why did his parents with the last name Williams name him William is also another mystery there. If he was like, it is William, it's not like Will or something like that. Where are we? Yeah, William Salter Austin Williams. So if he was like William Salter Austin Williams the third or something, that would make some sense, because then you could at least say there's like a heritage thing. But a little confusing. I was just watching his highlights on the New Zealand cricket app as well as you're saying that, to get a look at like his action. And yeah, it does look like he sort of drops his left arm down quite early, where you normally they like the coaches will tell you to keep that left elbow nice and high so you can like swing it down in like a wheel formation as you bring the right arm through to give you like that thrust and momentum or whatever. He seems to drop it a little earlier. He's very like elbows as well when he's running in. But I mean, something's working for him, because that was he got what did he get in that second 5 for 58 in the second innings against Wellington there, which was bowling towards a victory as well. So like pretty bloody impressive numbers there, including the wicket of Conway, which was one of the ones I was watching. Devon Conway out for 94, like slashing at one, hitting it to gully. Apparently, there was a very good catch there that by Tom Latham in the gully / wider slip caught in, which wasn't caught on camera because it's outside of the range. But Devon Conway then just stands there for ages, like adjusts his glove, takes it off, looks back across. Everyone is like, all the Canterbury players have run off celebrating, and then he puts his bat down and just leans up against it like he's doing the old like W.G. Grace thing. Like, you know, there's a famous story where W.G. Grace gets out early, turns to the umpire and says, "Look here, buddy, the people, we see all these people in the crowd. They've come here to watch me bat. They haven't come here to watch you umpire. So I suggest you take that finger down." Like the clip ends about 25 seconds gone, and he's still just standing there, not looking like he's gonna walk off. It's probably not used to being out just short of 100. That fella, he tends to cash in. But Will Williams, that was his first fifer, was the point I was going to make. The first fifer he's got in 47 innings of first-class cricket, and yet he has an average of 23.68. Like, Kyle Jamison cashes in. Like, we meant, like, he took that 9 for against, back in the Canterbury days. He's got a couple fifers already this season. I mean, he got a bloody hat-trick the other day. He cashes in. Like, that's why you get a low average, is because you get those innings where you get a whole lot. So for Will Williams to have an average under 24 with one fifer suggests that there aren't too many games that he plays where he isn't taking wickets. Like, he must be chipping away 1, 2, 3 most innings that he bowls in. So maybe this is another talent evaluation thing. Like, he's obviously doing something right, eh?
Definitely. If I had to guess, I'd say very stump to stump, a lot of movement, seam, swing, predominantly in swing to right-handers, if I'm thinking about Will Williams. And come to think of it, I did say that I can see a bit easier what Sean Solier is doing with the ball. I would say that they are, like, if there was a bowler who is most similar to Will Williams, it is Sean Solier. And if there's a bowler who is most similar to Sean Solier, it is Will Williams, because they're both very front on with how they approach the crease and then through the crease. So maybe in these conditions, that's just suited to what they're doing, because they're like front on action. You're leaning, you're making it easier to bowl in swing to right-handers. Side on action, you're making it easier to bowl out swing to right-handers. That's what makes Kyle Jameson even more amazing, because he's moving the ball both ways, right? Like that last ball of the hat-trick, ginormous in-swinger. Like, is that just happening because there's reverse swing? Is that just happening because there's Kyle Jemison can manipulate his action to bowl induckers? Like, it's all pretty interesting. And on the back of the, like, Matt Henry Black Caps situation in conjunction with mainly Kyle Jemison, I think there's the same brewing feeling I get with the all-rounders here, Wildcard. Not specifically because, like, we've just had Doug Bracewell hit a century, Daryl Mitchell hit a century, but they've also taken wickets. So Doug Bracewell, for example, his century, like, he had a high score of 102 and he scored 122 runs. So I don't want to, like, big up his average. Same thing with Daryl Mitchell, high score of 103, total runs of 129. So I'll just say that they have both scored centuries and they have both only batted twice, which is pretty good. Then you look at the bowling. Daryl Mitchell, 8 wickets at 15. Doug Bracewell, 9 wickets at 19. So you've got Doug Bracewell might be a bit more of a seamer than a batsman. Daryl Mitchell might be a bit more of a batsman than a seamer, but they are both all-rounders. And I don't know, all I can say without any, like, firm roots in this idea is I just feel there's a situation brewing there with regards to the Black Caps and how they build their team moving forward. Because if there's any slip up from Colin de Grandhomme, it would have to be like something would have to happen. Like, Colin de Grandhomme would have to be extra bad, because I do think that the current Black Caps setup, unless it's an injury, under Kane Williamson, there is the vibe of, like, these are our guys and we know what they do and we're going to select them. We're going to give them extra chances. So I'm not saying Doug Bracewell is better than Colin de Grandhomme right now. I'm not saying Daryl Mitchell should be there ahead of Colin de Grandhomme right now. I'm just saying this is a situation that is brewing. If Colin de Grandhomme goes the wrong way and Doug Bracewell and Daryl Mitchell go the right way, I just feel like that is brewing, because we've seen both Doug Bracewell and Daryl Mitchell have really good starts to the summer with bat and ball, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, Doug Bracewell's bowled a couple of absolute, like, peaches throughout. Like, you roll through some of his highlights through the first couple games. He's bowling very well, and that's chucking him back into a mixture, because he is a dude with a lot of international experience as well. So, like, and there's, well, I mean, I got to take a second as well to acknowledge the 100 that he scored, because that was just incredible. Because he came in, let me see if I can find the thing. He, somewhere, because he came in with his team, I don't even know what position he batted. This, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so he came in at 8, which meant they must have been 6 down, 6 for 106. They were then 7 for 106 because Brad Schmullian got out at the other end straight away. So they're 7 for 106 effectively when he came in. Like, he watched a guy get out, but he didn't obviously do anything. Needing about 280 to win. And he had a couple, like 5 6s, 7 4s along the way, but he also batted at a strike rate of 74. So it's not like he was just doing Nathan Astle, got to go for it, incredible slogging away, like, kind of innings. He legitimately, like, batted with the tail. Old JFA Field, whatever his first name is, faced 92 deliveries, coming in at 9. Ray Toole even he got 6 not out of 34, so it's not like Bracewell was just protecting him from the strike the whole time either. Like, he genuinely batted with the tail, a proper innings. The bad ball went to the fence or over the fence, but like nothing crazy, nothing reckless, and they got so close. Auckland ended up winning by 25 runs, but Doug Bracewell legitimately, like, that innings wasn't just game was gone, or that, like, Daryl Mitchell's, for example, was also a very good 100, but he was batting to put the game away. Like, that Wellington were well behind in that game. Canterbury were looking to set a very big total. In this case, like, Doug Bracewell was batting against an inevitable defeat, and he very nearly pulled off an absolute miracle to get them. So that was an amazing innings. The thing about, it's like there's 2 notes to make on things we've already talked about that I was scribbling down here. One is another aspect of Will Williams' bowling very well, as I think you can't also ignore, like, the unit that he's bowling within, where, like, Ed Nuttall is a very good, experienced, reliable first-class bowler, same as Will Williams is proving to be. Daryl Mitchell, obviously, is a dude who knows exactly what he's doing. Fraser Sheet got his first 5-wicket bag. He's a bit of a younger fella who also has a slightly, slightly unorthodox action, but seems to, be 5 for 25 in the first innings there is pretty bloody excellent. And they've played Wellington twice. This doesn't affect Will Williams' career figures. This is just this season, but they've played Wellington twice, once in Wellington, once at, I suppose it would have been, Hagley Oval, in fact, in Christchurch. So it doesn't take much to figure that those would have been 2 very good, like, seam bowling conditions as well, which, that doesn't, we're talking about 26, 27 games or whatever with 27 games with Will Williams, so that's not to mention his, like, not to affect his career statistics, but that does flow on into what you're saying before about the Black Caps and spin bowling, because that was what happened against India, wasn't it? I don't think Ajaz Patel played, they just picked Kyle Jamieson as an extra seamer, and Kyle Jamieson took 9 wickets or something like that. He did very, very well, scored some runs as well. Like, I don't think they would drop Sim Southee, and I don't think they should, but I do expect certain, like, I think that's the kind of thing you would hear from, like, your mainstream Kiwi sporting media, is maybe, like, is throwing up the idea that Tim Southee might be in trouble, when I don't think he would be. If anything, Colin de Gronholm would be in more trouble maybe, and you just bat Kyle Jamieson at, what would he be, 8? 7 or 8, depends where BJ Walling is. But, I mean, considering what we've just been saying about, like, the seam bowling dominance in the first 2 rounds of the Plunket Shield, considering that the West Indies are coming here first, considering that we'll be playing test matches before the end of the year, I don't think the grass on these wickets is going to burn off quite in time. It'll be a little bit better. It'll be drier conditions by the time those tests start. But I also don't really see what, like, I mean, I love watching spin bowling, so it's one of those things, and I want to see Ajaz Patel get more opportunities. But if he's not playing at the moment, and he's not going to be getting in those reps ahead of the first test series of the summer, and if it's still likely to be seam bowling friendly conditions against the touring West Indies side, there's absolutely no reason not to just pick 5 seamers, including de Gronholm. Like, actually be really surprised if they didn't do that, especially considering there's like prior form there as well to do exactly that kind of thing. Like, it's just smart selection at that point, because that's the team that's going to most likely get you the victory.
It definitely will. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And at the end of the day, they're just trying to win games of cricket. They're not necessarily... it's not their duty to develop spin bowlers. Like, their duty is to win games of Test cricket. And given the current landscape, unless maybe Ish Sodhi, he took a couple wickets in this game, maybe he pops up and he dominates for a couple of games, puts himself in the mix. Mitchell Santner's in the IPL, where he's played a whopping 2 games, so shout out to him. He might come back and prove to be a factor as well. Unless something changes with those 3 spinners, defeating the West Indies, especially in that first test, you know Kyle Jamison's going to take some first innings wickets. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. Might get a bit tricky if you're opening with Tom Blundell at the moment, though, wildcard, because this is something we are keeping tabs on. Tom Blundell, 28 runs at an average of 7. And his opening partner, Rachin Ravindra, 35 runs at an average of 8.75. So neither Tom Blundell or Rachin Ravindra has done anything in the start of the Plunket Shield. And yeah, we're keeping track on Tom Blundell. Like, he is one of the more interesting, not because of anything he's doing. He's just someone in a very interesting position, with how he's used at the Black Caps, how he's used with Wellington Firebirds. This is the first time Tom Blundell has been used as an opener for the Wellington Firebirds because of the fact that he is the Black Caps opener, and that has resulted in no runs. How are you, like, what kind of leash are you giving Tom Blundell here, wildcard? Every chance, like, he's only going to have to make, like, 1 score in 2 games of Plunket Shield cricket to boost his stocks, and he might not even have to do anything to boost his stocks because the Black Caps will have faith in him. But, like, how are you assessing that situation, considering it's another game down and everything is the same?
And the other factor is that if he continues to average 7 runs, like if he scores another 28 runs at an average of 7 in the next 2 rounds as well, and still gets picked to face the West Indies in those, I think it's 2 tests, we're probably still going to win those test matches. Like, this isn't a situation like going to Australia where, ironically, actually, despite the point that I'm trying to make here, where, like, players who were out of form, specifically the previous opener in Jeet Raval, was exposed by the fact that we were also getting thrashed by an extremely good Australian team in their ideal circumstances playing at home. Like, despite that, where Tom Blundell actually came in and scored a pretty incredible century there, like, he's not going to be exposed if he struggles against the West Indies, because I expect that if he gets out cheaply, well, Kane Williamson is going to come in and score a lot of runs, then Ross Taylor's going to come in after him and score a lot of runs. Presumably Henry Nicholls, though, he hasn't played yet, has he, Henry Nicholls? I think he might be slightly injured as well, I'm not sure. And then, more than anything, regardless of who scores the runs, I'd be pretty confident that we're going to take a lot of wickets. I mean, Neil Wagner takes wickets regardless. Trent Bolt, I think I'm right in saying, hasn't played a lot in the... Oh, has he played a lot? He was the only one playing IPL, wasn't he, for a while there? I think he did take some wickets. And Tim Southee got a 5 for the other day, and Kyle Jamison's taking wickets for fun right now. So the West Indies are going to struggle to set any kind of totals against us with the form some of these bowlers are in. It's not really going to matter. But having said that, we still want the optimum Black Caps 11, because tougher tests will follow. There is a test championship. We've got to play some difficult away series over the next 24 months. And I am struggling to see how Tom Blundell is going to last in this role. So just remember, it comes to a point of how in the Black Caps selecting team is traditionally very conservative when it comes to making these decisions. but how long of a leash do you give him? How long do you persevere if he doesn't score? Will these last two Plunket Shield games be the making? And I agree with you. If he gets 100 in one of these last 4 innings, he's probably safe. But if he doesn't, if he continues on the way he's gone, and it hasn't been very pretty to watch some of his dismissals either. They're not the kind of dismissals you want to see from a test match opener, fiddling at wide ones and that kind of thing. A lot of getting caught behind the wicket and whatnot. How long of a leash do you give him? How much of a... are you even setting little targets of where, from a Gavin Larson perspective, is he setting little targets of what he wants to see from Blunder, or is it purely a matter of he was the incumbent, so he stays on? I don't know. And then the option B as well, or question B to consider is, if you are going to drop him, you need to know who you're going to pick to replace him. And I'm not sure that's particularly clear at the moment either. Devon Conway's not opening in Plunket Shield, whereas and neither is Will Young, who have been the two next man up kind of batsmen in recent times. So I'm not sure that situation is very clear either, which is just adding up to a general kind of murky bowl of soup.
Well, old mate Henry Cooper's hit 2 half-centuries in 2 games. He's averaging 51. Last season, Henry Cooper averaged 49, and he was second to Devon Conway. So there's a young opener there scoring runs that the Black Caps definitely won't pick.
Well, that's the other thing, is young players. We talked about start of the podcast, nice long chat there about assessing young players in various sports. Cricket tends to be a late bloomers kind of sport anyway. And the Black Caps take that to an excessive degree. If you look at the contracted players, I think there's about 2 of them who are under the age of 28 at the moment. So Henry Cooper at age, what would he be, 24, something like that? He would definitely be a bit of a bolter, despite the fact that he has multiple seasons at this point of consistently delivering. And also, I just, check out again with the old analyzing players, the eye test factor. He does bat a lot like a right-handed Tom Latham. I can see a lot of that in the way he plays too. So I certainly think he could do it. I certainly don't think they'll pick him.
He is 27 years old, so he's almost at that 28.
Oh, so he's almost there.
He's right for the picking. Henry Cooper, back-to-back centuries to finish last season. So that means centuries in the last 2 games, and then he has started this season with 2 half-centuries. So that's basically 4 Plunket Shield games with a 50-plus score for Henry Cooper. Nothing crazy there. Wildcard, I just ran some numbers, and we'll finish our Plunket Shield discussion here. Leo Carter may be the best 6-hitter in Aotearoa.
Didn't he hit 36 off and over in the Super Smash last year? Was that him?
So, right, he did that, right? He did that. That was him. Big Donny Leo Carter. Looks like every normal left-hander. He doesn't look like Doug Bracewell. He doesn't look like Tim Southey. He doesn't look like Colin de Gronholm. He just looks like a normal, reasonably sized human batsman. Because those other dudes are also all-rounders. Leo Carter's just a batsman. He has hit 5 sixes in the Plunket Shield this far. And 3 players have hit 5 sixes. They are Leo Carter, Doug Bracewell, and Colin de Gronholm. No surprises there. All up, Leo Carter has hit 22 sixes in 30 first-class games. Well, how about this wildcard? You mentioned his 6 sixes. In 2020 cricket, Leo Carter has hit 15 sixes in 30 games in 2020 cricket. In first-class cricket, he has hit 22 sixes in 30 games. So he has hit more sixes. Obviously, there's more time and more deliveries to hit more sixes, but that is, in my mind, that is offset by the difference in formats. So T20 cricket, you're trying to hit boundaries all the time. So that's just how I But Leo Carter has hit more sixes in the same amount of first-class games than he has in T20 games, which is a bit crazy. Either way,
especially when you hit 6 of those 2020 ones in 1 over.
Yes. So he's hit 9 sixes in 29 games, which doesn't read as good. I'm forming an opinion here that Leo Carter is the certified six-hitter of New Zealand cricket right now. And from that seed, again, talking about evaluating young talent, shout out to Leo Carter. He does have a first-class average of 32.11. That is his best format, is first-class Plunket Shield cricket. But if Leo Carter is the Mr. Certified six-hitter of Aotearoa cricket, and I'm evaluating a young batsman, to me that feels like the seed for a T20 prospect. So if we're looking forward to any number of the 15 T20 World Cups that are happening in the next 3 years, Leo Carter needs to be viewed as a slugging prospect, because that's what he does. He bangs sixes as well as fours. So he's got 201 fours in 30 games. I didn't run stats on that. I might have to write about it and then I'll do a deeper dive. I did run stats on sixes though. So assuming my math is correct, Leo Carter he averages 0.73 sixes per game of first class cricket. So not innings, just game. Tim Southey averages 0.83. So he's a bit better, but we know Timmy deals in sixes. Doug Bracewell, 0.63. So Tim Southey and Doug Bracewell have both played a lot more cricket, and they're kind of in that lower order, all-rounder, bang a couple sixes. That's their job. And Leo Carter is on par with them, if not better. Colin de Grandhomme doesn't have like his first class sixes listed in his Cricinfo profile. But we know Colin de Grandhomme loves to bang a six in Test cricket, and his numbers rolled out to be he averages 1.54 sixes per test. I'd be very interested to see what his first class numbers are like, but they're not there. But that's kind of the benchmark, is Colin de Grandhomme hitting sixes in Test cricket, bang bang. George Worker, for example, he's a top order, pretty attacking opening batsman. He averages 0.33 sixes per game. So I want to dive a bit deeper into that and just lay it out for Leo Carter a bit better, with a bit more clarity around what that is. But fairly interesting there, wildcard, that there is a batsman in Leo Carter who, yes, he hit 6 sixes in a Super Smash over last summer, and that was eye-catching. That's the type of shit that shows up on the TVNZ 6 o'clock news. But Leo Carter's like smashing sixes in the Plunket Shield right now. And he's on track with the best sluggers in New Zealand cricket, like of recent years, which is pretty amazing. So shout out Leo Carter and keep an eye on him, because he looks like he's gonna hit a lot more sixes.
Yeah, not to be confused with Joe Carter from Northern Districts, who's scoring bucket loads of runs. I think he got an unbeaten 146 or something like that in the last game, and also captaining ND. Which, yeah, I don't know a huge lot about him, but seems like he's right on the brink himself. Speaking of clarity as well, one other thing that I forgot while thinking about the opener situation is we are actually going to get some clarity on this ahead of the test team, aren't we? Because there is a couple of West Indies got a couple games late November of there's a 3-day match at Burke Sutcliffe Oval and then a 4-day match at Burke Sutcliffe Oval later in the same week. So 2 New Zealand A games ahead of that. And I think that's probably going to be pretty telling as to where selectors are coming from. Because, I mean, I remember discussing this a year ago. All the dudes who came, who were the players who came in to do really well just came in full stop when the Black Caps needed extra test players. It was guys like last season, it was guys like Glenn Phillips, Kyle Jemison, Daryl Mitchell, probably one or two more I can't think of off the top of my head. Tom Blundell actually might have. I can't remember if Tom Blundell played in that or not. But certainly those first three all played in the New Zealand A teams that played against England at the start of that summer as well. So they're using the New Zealand A team. It's a pretty new sort of idea as well. Well, not new idea, but a new emphasis on this idea in the last year or two that they have been putting more of a factor into New Zealand A stuff. And they do seem to be using it in a way of these are the next 11 players. Not just there's one or two fellas that are prospects getting an extra go or whatever, but that's because they're being lined up for Black Caps duty down the line. They are using it as a Black Caps reserves type team. And we're going to get a couple New Zealand A games before the Test series. So we should get a bit of a glimpse as to who opens there. I watched one of them, when it was at one of the games against England when they played it in Whangarei, and the openers that day were Hamish Rutherford and Rachim Ravindra, and Rutherford got concussed and he got a knock on the head from Jofra Archer, I think, and didn't open in the second innings, and Glenn Phillips just moved up from 3 to open. And I think he scored 100 as well, or that might have been in the first innings, I can't remember. But yeah, that. I also don't think those two guys are going to... I mean, for one thing, Hamish Rutherford isn't even opening for Otago at the moment, I don't think. It's Anaru Kitchen and what's his name? What is his name, the other opener for Otago?
I think it's Hawkins. Cam Hawkins.
That's it, Cam Hawkins, that's the one, yeah. So, yeah, that's another... I don't think you're going to see the same two go. Oh, Ravindra might get another go because they like what they've seen in him, and he is clearly he hasn't scored the runs to prove it this season, but he is clearly an excellent up and coming batsman. But if for example, old mate Henry Cooper's going to get a crack there, I would expect we'll see his name in that New Zealand A team ahead of time if that's genuinely an option. But again, I actually, when did I say that was the 21st of November is the first game. Because there's two, I don't know if they'll do different squads, or maybe the second New Zealand A team will be a little more stronger. The first one will just be, because that's what they did the previous time as well, as they played a 2-dayer against England, which is sort of players out from beneath, players from A teams beneath Plunket Shield level. And then the second one was their proper New Zealand A team. So that second game is the 26th of November. So it's only, 3 weeks. It'll be after the next two rounds of the Plunket Shield, once we get into the break, heading into limited overs stuff. But we should get some form of clarity once that comes. I mean, if anything, that New Zealand A team announcement will be more exciting than the Black Caps announcement.
Shout out to Cam Hawkins, because Cam is short for Camden. So, according to Cricinfo, Camden Hawkins, not Cameron, as you would assume with a Cam Hawkins, but Camden. Fairly decent record as well. Little 25-year-old. I think he moved from Central Districts to Otago, maybe. Not sure about that one exactly, but he is averaging 26 after 12 games with the bat. So, shout out to Camden Hawkins.
Scored 90 in his most recent innings too.
He did indeed. Do you have any deep cut player that you want to highlight here, Wildcard? This is your platform just to highlight an individual of your pick, preferably not someone dominating at the moment, but just someone that you are dabbling in a bit of attention with.
Yeah, I don't know if I've got a singular player to chuck up, but I do have a singular idea that this seems as good a time as any to throw out. One of my favorite moments of the last round was and I put up the clip of this as well, was an over that Colin de Gronholm was batting in. He'd come in at a time where Northern were just looking to set a target for Otago. They didn't really, they had runs on the board. It was just a matter of cashing in before, I think it was before a declaration. They ended up, ding, 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 scrolling. Yeah, they did declare 7 down. So de Gronholm comes in, scores 23 runs off 9 deliveries, and in the midst of all that, he took about an over to set himself up, and then Michael Ray comes on to bowl, and de Gronholm, slightly short on leg stump, leans back, lifts it for 6 behind square, gets a similar ball the next time, does the same thing with it. Another one the next time, does the same thing with it. So 6, 6, 6. Looking to do his best Leo Carter impersonation and go all out at this point, he's halfway to a perfect over. Then the next one, Michael Ray leans it slightly on off stump, and de Gronholm charges down the wicket and edges it behind and is out. So in 6, 6, 6 wicket, which is I chucked that video up on Twitter because it was extremely entertaining and such pure Colin de Gronholm, the perfect Colin de Gronholm when there's no stakes, you don't have to worry. He had free license to just swing the bat, and it was exactly what you hope for, just big sixes and also a dramatic wicket. But in amongst that, there's been a little bit of hype about Colin de Gronholm rocking the old mullet these days as well. Let himself, or I guess chosen to express himself over the lockdowns, follically speaking. But up against Michael Ray, you had the mullet against the headband. And I remember discussing, because Michael Ray took a bunch, I think it was him specifically, him and his headband wearing ways. I think we talked about this in a podcast episode last season, because you don't see a lot of that. You don't, the thick, the Chris Martin sort of sweatbandy headbands. You don't see so many of them these days, but I've counted 3 players so far who have worn them in this first couple rounds of the Plunket Shield. Michael Ray is one, Seth Rance is another, and I'm pretty sure I saw Blair Tickner rocking one as well. So I'm not sure if you've noticed anyone else joining the headband brigade so far, but those are the 3 that I've noticed to date. But I've certainly got my eyes peeled at this point now.
I've got nothing to add as far as headbands go, so nice job by you. I will add, so of those 14 seamers who have taken at least 6 wickets, Michael Ray is the only guy with more than 6 wickets who is averaging more than 30. He's averaging 41, which is probably because of a couple of those sixes. So shout out to Michael Ray. He's still taking wickets. He's still got 7 wickets, which is exactly the same number of wickets as Neil Wagner and Tim Southey. So you're doing nothing wrong with a bit of a 7 wicket haul. Just wee bit expensive, but that's all good.